I studied a really long time ago and graduated in 1993. I studied fashion design at TAFE College in Perth in Western Australia. And when I graduated, I worked for a few different businesses, mainly as a pattern maker. That's been probably my main job, my main profession. I did work in mainstream fashion as well, also as a pattern maker, and a little bit on production as well in Sydney for a few brands that do like cheap, fast fashion. And I kind of knew I didn't really like it. I didn't like the concept of fast fashion. I moved into bridal wear and I worked in bridal wear for probably 10 years, which I really enjoyed. It was a really nice experience to work with clients one-on-one. But then we decided to move overseas. After we travelled and moved around for a bit, we landed in Cambodia and liked it. So decided to stay and see what would happen if we tried starting businesses in Cambodia. And so 15 years later, I'm still here working in fashion. My husband works in a different business. He works in training and consulting. I think initially we just felt like it was a comfortable place for foreigners. We were welcomed. We were able to start a business without too many complications, making it difficult, like it was easy to do. So we thought, well, why not? We'll try and see if we like it or not. We had some time that we could have gone home if we still wanted to and still taken jobs, but we decided we would just see what would happen. And each year we were like, yeah, we'll stay another year, we'll stay another year. And I think it just kind of got longer and longer, and now this is really, for us, this is really home. I mainly did consulting on like pattern making. I did other freelance pattern making for some businesses here, smaller businesses, and I also helped out with some places that needed support for training their sewers to be better pattern makers and to do better samples and improve sewing and that kind of thing. So I did that as consulting, and then I actually started a bridal wear label. So I actually opened a shop, and we were doing, my initial plan was to do bridal wear but ethically made. But as we grew a little bit, we actually found we got more inquiry for production than we did for bridal wear. So we sort of eventually stopped doing bridal wear and just moved into production, where now companies and brands and small brands will come and ask us, can you make this for us? My hobbies? I actually really like to sew. I also like to go running. This weekend I'm running a 21-kilometre half marathon in Siem Reap, so that'll be fun. I train to do that kind of thing. I also like to watch movies, and we try to come up with ways to use up our scrap fabric, and we've been working on that a little bit at the moment. We've come up with some new samples to try and use like more small fabrics and fabrics that are left over. So we're trying to work on those at the moment. It's a really slow process to organise that, because you have to find a way to consistently use scrap fabric and then make sure that it fits and that it's a product that clients would want. So that's one side of it. We also try and work with some of the places in Cambodia that manufacture fabrics, like that do hand weaving or dyeing and those kinds of things. So our brands are mainly, we really only have one brand we work with, or two brands that we're working with that are based here in Cambodia. The rest of them really sell overseas, and even the brands we work with here, really they sell overseas. So all of our brands are in Australia, in Europe, in the US. Usually the key reason is they want to know that their products are produced in good conditions. That would be the number one reason that they want to work with us. You know, I want to have like an honest and happy life, and a transparent, you know, kind to people and animals. I think that would be the most important thing. And I guess that's a key reason. It's like, you know, I don't want to see people who are like, you know, pushed around and trodden down because, you know, that they have to do some horrible work. It's like, you know, if you're going to make clothing, it's always at the moment until the next digital revolution happens in a way that means that people no longer have to make things, but people make things. And people talk to me and they're always really surprised at how much of their clothing is made by hand. They're always like, oh, it's made by a human? I'm like, yeah, it's made by a human. They made the pattern, they cut it out, they sewed it together. It didn't happen, you know, the machine didn't do it for them. You know, they're very technically skilled to be able to do that. And so I think recognising that in our staff and people who work in the garment industry in general is like, they actually have a high level of skill, because it's not, lots of people are like, I can't sew, I don't know how to make the machine work. You know, people who learn until you teach them, and they're like, oh, this is quite difficult. I'm like, I know, right? So they learn, like, people who learn actually learn new respect for people who make their clothing, because they honestly have no idea how much is done by hand. Some items will take only like, you know, 20 or 30 minutes, but some things will take like 4 or 5 hours. You know, jackets and coats and dresses take a lot of time, and the fabrics are complicated, and you have to be skilled to put it together. You have to be skilled to pattern make it, and you have to be skilled to do the sample and understand, you know, bringing that item to life. I think my first really long traveling experience was about 16 months. And I think that was a great learning experience. You had to learn lots and lots of different things, just literally how to survive in the world with not a lot of stuff. Moving from country to country where maybe you can't speak English, you have to learn a little bit of language to talk to people, figure out how to buy food, get transport, find somewhere to sleep. And then of course you get to see lots of incredible and amazing stuff all around the world. So I think for me that really helped, I guess, transform my idea in, you know, or just, I don't know, helped me to grow up. We also lived for 6 months in Mongolia, which was also incredible, and such an interesting place. You learn a lot from just spending like time in different places and seeing how other people live, and sort of realising that, you know, most humans just want the same thing. You know, we want to hang out with our families, hang out with our friends, watch TV, watch movies, you know, just sort of live normal lives. None of us really want to do anything. I'd probably have to say Mongolia. It had like an incredible parallel to Australia, which, you know, is still in my heart. Living here has been the challenge. Deciding to come here and start a business, that was like, and I think that's just the ongoing challenge that I'm still facing. How to make the business sustainable, how to grow it, and how to retire from it. Sort of so that I hand it over to my staff and say, that's kind of now your, you know, this is now either your business, or, you know, we grow it to a point where it can be sustainable without me. That would be the ultimate goal. But that's still a massive challenge. So we've been going for quite a while, but now it's really like at that stage where it's like, how do we grow it to the next level? So we kind of started with like one person, me and one staff member, working from my house. And so we did like lots of little things, and we'd do everything together and stuff. And then we added like one more sewer, and then there was like 3 of us. And, you know, we grew sort of a bit like that. And then we sort of got to a level where we'd have like 10 or 12 people for quite a while. And we stayed like that for quite some time. And then we grew again, and now we've got about 17 people. But we need to grow just to that next level. We need to get up to probably about 25 to 30 people. And then it'll be a little bit bigger, and able to handle slightly larger orders and things like that. It varies a little bit. Some have come from like different factories and things, so have quite good sewing experience. Some have just very minimal sewing experience. So you know, if we think that the person is the right fit and they're willing to kind of learn our method, then we're not, you know, we're happy for that person to start working with us. I think the critical thing is that they like what we do, is the first thing, and that they're willing to learn our method. So even if they can sit behind a sewing machine and make it work, we still want them to learn how we do our sewing, because we do quite a high quality product. So we want our staff to learn to make sure that they know how to do our finishes and our methods. Actually, it's really interesting. Most of our staff now stay like quite a long time. My pattern maker's been with us for 10 years. Advice about moving to Cambodia. You really have to try it out and just embrace it in all its crazy. All the things that are like good and all the things that are bad, you just have to go, okay, it's all, you have to, I don't know, zen out, let go, whatever you want to call it, however it is. You can't really come here and go like, oh, that's terrible, and be, you know, you just have to come and let it wash over you and embrace it. Otherwise you can't stay, because it will make you crazy, it will make you mad. And then you'll just have to go back to wherever you came from. And I think that's been like one of our sort of things. After a while, and you just kind of go, yep, that's Cambodia. Some things you can have a little bit of influence over within your, you know, your own circle, your own life, your own business. Other things are just like, I don't know, it's Cambodia. I think it's got challenges both ways. And I think that's the critical thing. It's like, are you willing to move somewhere where you don't speak the language and you have to take on that slight challenge of a different kind of bureaucracy compared to a very expensive but different kind of bureaucracy in Australia. I wouldn't say it's more easy here. I'd just say you can look at it either way, and you'll find some kind of definite difficulty whether you do it at home or whether you do it here. It really depends on, and it depends a bit what you're doing. Some things you'd be like, well, that's crazy, why would you do that in Cambodia? But other things are like, oh, that's actually a good idea. I can see why you would do that in Cambodia. We came here because there's lots of people who sew. Garment manufacturing is a thing here. People come here for garment manufacturing. So it made sense to have a business here that's in garment manufacturing and in ethical garment manufacturing. It makes no sense to start it in Australia. It's too expensive. You can't get people to do it. Exporting is a problem. It doesn't make any sense to do it. So it made sense to do it here. What I think social entrepreneurship is something that will have some kind of social impact. So doing a business that will have a social impact. I guess when we look at our business, we say that our social impact is that our staff have now proper stable working jobs, they get proper leave, get some support for medical, they get some support for insurance, you know, that they get all the things. Plus we follow all the law, you know, we pay their taxes properly, seniority payments and all these different things. The government has done like a lot of work on bringing in new things to support workers, making sure that they're paid different things. And one of the things they brought in was seniority. Soon there's going to be a pension allowance. So we're now paying a pension allowance as well. So, you know, all these different things. And what we notice in terms of impact for our staff is they're paying for kids to go to school. They pay their rent on time and it's regular. They pay for food. You know, they can pay for milk for babies. They're paying for medical care. They're covered by NSSF. You know, all these different things that they can do now, which maybe if they were working for somewhere not so good, they wouldn't be able to do these things. It would be more of a struggle. So we hope that we're lifting them up and giving them the opportunity, especially the opportunity to send their kids to a school every day. It's hard to make money in garment manufacturing because there's so much focus on like the product being cheap. It's quite hard to get people to understand that if you're paying for all this and you're running a business, you know, paying for like, you know, salaries and taxes and all this kind of stuff, it's actually really hard to get people to understand that, you know, products made well take longer, and that, you know, maybe you need to pay a bit more for the product. And also that we're making very small quantities for people because we're helping businesses who are smaller or maybe startups or who just don't want to produce 1 million garments. You know, they only want to produce 50 or 100 or 300 pieces. You don't get economy of scale from that. So yeah, I think garment manufacturing is particularly hard. Maybe in other areas where people do other social business, maybe there's more possibility for profit. It's, you know, a lot of people, you know, we get inquiries, a lot of inquiries to say, you know, I want to make a t-shirt, and you'll tell them the price and they're like, oh, that's really expensive. It's like, yeah, but you only want to make 50. So, you know, if you want a $2 t-shirt, then you need to make, you know, probably 20,050. Try it. It's definitely worth trying. It seems to be one of those things that you have to really slog away and really keep trying. Even if it's like, okay, I'm going to try a different way, I'm going to try a different way, I'm going to try a different way, and you have to keep falling down until it really sticks. If you really think that the idea is good. But yeah, sometimes it's really lonely and quite sort of tiring, and there's going to be days where you just go, nah, I don't want to do this anymore. You have to keep getting up and going like, all right, today I'm going to keep going. I think the fact that we're still going, and that we have a stable workforce. You know, my guys have stayed with me. I like my guys. They're a good team, and I'm happy and, you know, proud that we've built like a strong team and that we're still going. We're still in business. I do want to grow the staff a little bit more. I don't want to make it a, you know, 1,000-person company. I want to keep it small, but I want to keep the focus on the ethical stance. I'd like to add a little bit more product that uses to showcase a little bit more recycling. I'd like to showcase more product from Cambodia, so more where we use more fabrics or things that are locally made. I'd like to incorporate that a little bit more, and generally I'd just like to grow it up enough that I can sort of step out and let it be run without me, so that I can retire a little bit, hang out and go and do something else. The garment industry's got to take a long hard look at itself and really think about how it's going to move forward. I think we always need clothing, but we make too much. Actually, we just make too much stuff, period. Like, just not even just clothing. We make way too much stuff. We need to have a long hard look and say, do we really need to make all that stuff? This is a massive challenge. We have to decide as a business, how do we keep relevant? Because if we're just making more things that no one needs, then I worry that even we become irrelevant. And then I think the second part is looking at like how is the development of AI and these kinds of things going to affect the garment industry, and how can we utilize those tools to help us do better? Because essentially that's what we should be looking at it, going like, all right, we have these new tools now, they're pretty cool, they can do a lot of things for us. How can we actually make it better instead of just making more stuff? Because we don't need to make more stuff, we need to make good stuff. But, you know, it's got to be the right thing. And I think, yeah, this is a huge challenge. It's consumers, it's governments, it's people who, you know, it's companies who make stuff. Everyone has to have some responsibility for it. It's not going to be, oh, it's not just the consumers and it's not just the governments and it's not just the businesses, but, you know, at the end of the day, everyone's going to have to take a bit of time and go, because there's no point in doing business and it's not making a useful impact for the world or for people, because it's just, then it just becomes wrong. And I can't see any point in doing that. You know, think about what you're buying. Do you need it? Is it important? Was it made well? Is it worth it? And will you keep it and use it? Even if it's a cheap t-shirt, will you keep it and make sure that you use it properly before you throw it away?